the order is already moving. It exists first as a sequence of words, fixed and complete, transferred from one surface to another without alteration. It is stamped, logged, copied, and forwarded. Each repetition preserves its shape. Each transfer confirms its authority. No emphasis is added. Nothing is removed. The language is precise, formal, and unambiguous. The order does not arrive suddenly. It arrives on schedule. It passes through offices designed for transmission rather than reflection. Desks arranged for efficiency. Rooms built to contain certainty. Hands receive it, check it against protocol, and pass it onward. The motion is practiced. The path is familiar. The process has been repeated countless times under different circumstances, producing outcomes that are no longer examined once completed. No one pauses to consider alternatives. The order does not invite them. It contains all the elements required for execution. Time frames are defined. Responsibilities are assigned. Resources are allocated. There is no space left open. No conditional language, no allowance for interpretation. The order anticipates compliance, not discussion. Each individual who handles it understands their role in relation to it. They are not asked to judge its wisdom. They are asked to confirm receipt. The system surrounding the order is quiet, disciplined, and confident. It has been designed to remove friction. Any hesitation would be treated as error. Any delay as malfunction. The order moves because it is meant to move, and the system exists to ensure that it does. Voices are not raised. There is no visible urgency. The atmosphere is controlled, routine, and measured. The order carries its own momentum, reinforced by procedure and reinforced again by habit. It does not require belief, only acknowledgement. As it descends, it becomes smaller in scope and larger in consequence. Each step downward narrows perspective, while increasing commitment. At no point does the order weaken. It gains strength through repetition. Every confirmation hardens it further. Those who receive it understand that it has already been approved. Its origin is distant and abstract, filtered through layers of authority that cannot be accessed from below. The order arrives stripped of context, but complete in force. There is no record of dissent. None is expected. The absence of resistance is not remarkable. It is the intended state. The order does not promise success. It does not mention risk. It does not acknowledge uncertainty. It exists as a directive, not a question. Its authority is embedded in its format, its timing, its alignment with established rules. When it reaches its final hands, it is no longer perceived as a decision. It is perceived as a condition. Execution is inevitable now, not because of urgency or pressure or fear, but because the system has accepted the order as fact. And once accepted, facts are not revisited. The environment that receives the order is designed to eliminate deviation. It is composed of layers arranged vertically, each one responsible for a narrower field of vision than the last. Information flows downward in controlled increments. Authority flows upward in abstract form, represented by signatures, seals, and established precedents. Between these two directions, there is no intersection. One does not interfere with the other. The order enters this structure and immediately aligns with it. Its format matches existing templates. Its language conforms to regulation. Nothing about it triggers review beyond verification. It is recognized as legitimate by its shape alone. At the upper levels, the order is handled alongside dozens of others. It is not distinguished by urgency or risk. It is one instruction among many, processed within a schedule that assumes continuity. The system does not slow to examine content unless irregularity is detected, and none is present. As the order descends, each level performs a specific function. One confirms authorization. Another ensures logistical feasibility. Another assigns execution parameters. These actions are sequential, not collaborative. Each role exists to perform a task, not to evaluate purpose. The structure rewards clarity and speed. Ambiguity is corrected. Delay is noted. Compliance is recorded. The individuals within it are trained to trust the integrity of the layers above them. That trust is institutional, not personal. It does not depend on familiarity or confidence in a specific decision-maker. Communication is formal and constrained. Language is standardized to avoid misinterpretation. There are approved phrases for acknowledgement, approved methods for relay, approved channels for escalation. None of them are designed for objection. At no point does the order appear isolated. It is always accompanied by references to procedure, to precedent, to established operational norms. This context does not explain the order. It protects it. Those responsible for transmitting the order do not experience it as a choice. Their role is to ensure that it reaches the next level intact. The success of their task is measured by accuracy, not outcome. Completion is defined by delivery, not consequence. As the order moves lower, it becomes more specific. Distances are defined. Movements are scheduled. Sequences are fixed. Each detail further limits flexibility. Each clarification removes another opportunity for reconsideration. The structure treats certainty as efficiency. A complete order is considered a good order. The absence of questions is interpreted as confirmation of clarity, not as absence of concern. There are mechanisms for reporting issues, but they operate upward, and after execution has begun. They are designed to record events, not to halt them. The system assumes that correction, if necessary, will occur later, once facts are established. Training reinforces this assumption. Individuals are taught to operate within their designated scope, to execute without hesitation, to defer judgment. The structure depends on this discipline to function at scale. By the time the order reaches those tasked with direct action, it has passed through so many validations that its correctness is no longer in doubt. Not because it has been tested, but because it has been accepted repeatedly. The structure does not recognize doubt as a useful signal. It recognizes only compliance and deviation. And within this structure, the order is no longer just instruction. It is authority made procedural, and procedure made absolute. Block 3. Execution without question. Execution begins at the appointed time, not earlier, not later. The schedule has been distributed, synchronized, and confirmed. Each unit initiates movement according to predefined intervals. The sequence unfolds as written, without adjustment. There is no announcement, no signal beyond the one already expected. The order does not require reinforcement at this stage. Its presence has been integrated into routine. Actions are taken in coordination, not in conversation. Positions are assumed, equipment is prepared, routes are followed. Each motion corresponds to a line already acknowledged and accepted. No one asks for clarification. None is needed. The instructions are complete. They leave no gaps that would require interpretation. Where flexibility might have existed, it has been replaced by specificity. Timing is maintained through reference points established earlier. Watches are checked. Reports are submitted as required. Confirmation flows upward in brief, standardized messages that indicate progress without commentary. Silence is preserved where possible. Communication is functional, minimal, and controlled. The absence of discussion is not unusual. It is expected during execution. Coordination depends on adherence, not improvisation. Each element moves in relation to others, trusting that parallel actions are occurring as scheduled. This trust is not based on awareness, but on assumption. The system assumes compliance, and compliance sustains the system. There is no visible tension within the structure. The order has transformed uncertainty into procedure. Individuals act within narrow parameters, focused on immediate tasks rather than broader implications. Environmental conditions are noted but not weighed. Variations are recorded for later analysis. They do not alter the sequence. The order does not provide options for deviation based on circumstance. As execution continues, the commitment deepens. Each completed step increases reliance on the next. Reversal becomes impractical, not because it is forbidden, but because it is no longer accounted for. The system values continuity. Interruptions introduce risk. Adjustments require authorization that cannot be obtained within the time frame of execution. The structure is designed to move forward. Reports indicate that actions are proceeding as planned. These confirmations reinforce confidence at higher levels, where the order is now distant and abstract. The absence of reported issues is interpreted as success. No one sees the whole operation. Each participant experiences only their segment. The order has divided responsibility into manageable units, ensuring that no single individual holds enough context to question the direction. Execution proceeds smoothly, precisely, exactly as written. And with each synchronized movement, the order becomes less a set of instructions and more an event in progress. Irreversible, self-sustaining, and beyond reconsideration. The first indications do not arrive as alarms. They appear as minor discrepancies, registered quietly within reports that follow the same format as all others. Timings shift by small margins. Distances take longer to close than projected. Responses arrive intact but delayed. None of this violates the order. None of it contradicts the plan as written. The system absorbs these signals without reaction. At intermediate levels, the information is logged and forwarded. The language used to describe it remains neutral. Deviations are described as variations. Variations are expected. They are accounted for within acceptable thresholds that exist precisely to prevent disruption. The order does not include provisions for reassessment once execution has begun. It assumes stability. The structure around it enforces continuity. As movement continues, the discrepancies accumulate. What was once singular becomes patterned. The pattern is visible only in aggregate, and no single position is designed to observe it in full. Each layer sees only what falls within its scope. The order remains unchanged. Requests for clarification are unnecessary. The instructions are already explicit. Requests for modification would require authority that cannot be exercised at this stage without halting the entire process. Halting is not an option outlined in the procedure. There is no formal mechanism to question the order itself. Only its implementation can be reported. And implementation, according to all available indicators, is proceeding. At lower levels, conditions shift further. The environment resists alignment with the schedule. Coordination becomes strained, though still functional. Adjustments are made at the margins, minor corrections that preserve the appearance of compliance without altering the directive. These adjustments are not deviations. They are framed as optimization. The system prefers this framing. It allows continuity without confrontation. It preserves the authority of the order while acknowledging difficulty without defining it as error. Communication increases slightly, but remains procedural. Messages reference delays, not danger. Obstacles, not consequences. The language avoids escalation because escalation implies uncertainty, and uncertainty implies failure before failure has been confirmed. The order continues to move downward and outward, consuming resources as allocated. Each unit completes its assigned task and waits for the next instruction, which does not come. The order contains no contingency beyond completion. At higher levels, the situation is still interpreted through confirmation reports. Progress is measured against benchmarks that no longer reflect conditions on the ground, but the benchmarks remain valid because they were authorized. The system does not reinterpret data in real time. It records it. As the gap between instruction and reality widens, the structure compensates by tightening adherence. Deviations are corrected not by changing direction, but by enforcing the original sequence more strictly. The order is no longer guiding action. It is constraining it. By the time the failure becomes undeniable in isolated areas, the system has already committed too much to reverse. The order has created momentum without flexibility, and still, it remains in effect. The collapse does not occur at a single moment. It unfolds unevenly, across multiple points. As the accumulated strain exceeds the capacity of coordination, the order continues to be executed, but its outcomes diverge sharply from its intent. What was once synchronized becomes fragmented, though still bound by the same directive. Connections fail first. Communication channels become saturated with status updates that no longer reflect meaningful progress. Reports are submitted on time, formatted correctly, and rendered increasingly irrelevant. The information they contain arrives too late to influence anything. The order remains unchanged. Units continue to move according to instructions that no longer correspond to conditions. Movements intersect where they were not meant to. Timings overlap without coordination. Resources arrive where they are no longer useful, and fail to arrive where they are now required. The system responds by increasing procedural control. Compliance checks intensify. Confirmations are demanded more frequently. This creates the appearance of oversight while accelerating exhaustion. There is no panic. The structure does not allow for it. What emerges instead is saturation. Too many actions occurring within a framework no longer capable of organizing. Loss manifests as absence rather than spectacle. Missing responses. Unanswered confirmations. Delays that extend beyond acceptable thresholds without explanation. The order provides no language for this state. Attempts to compensate only deepen the failure. When one element fails to complete its task, adjacent elements continue as scheduled, creating further imbalance. The system is designed for reliability, not recovery. The order does not acknowledge degradation. It continues to assume integrity across all components. This assumption becomes the central. At higher levels, the collapse is still not described as such. The terminology remains technical. Failures are categorized as interruptions. Interruptions are temporary by definition. No single report captures the scale. Each document reflects only a fraction, and no mechanism exists to consolidate them into a coherent picture quickly enough to matter. As losses accumulate, they are recorded without attribution. The system does not pause to assign cause while execution is ongoing. Accountability is deferred. The order persists beyond the point of effectiveness. It outlives the conditions that justified it. It continues to direct action even as the structure it depends on erodes. Eventually, execution ceases, not because the order is withdrawn, but because there is nothing left capable of carrying it out as written. The sequence breaks under its own weight. The collapse is complete before it is formally recognized. By the time the system registers that the order can no longer be executed, the outcome has already been determined by the process that enforced it. Block 6. Aftermath without resolution. The aftermath is administrative. Once execution has ceased, the system begins to reorganize itself around the absence left behind. Reports are requested. Logs are compiled. Timelines are reconstructed from fragments that were never meant to stand alone. The order is no longer circulated. It is not rescinded. It simply stops appearing in new communications. Its reference number fades from daily use. Attention shifts to containment, to restoration of baseline function, to the re-establishment of routine. Documentation becomes the primary activity. Each unit submits accounts limited strictly to observed actions. Language remains formal and constrained. There is no space for interpretation, only description. What occurred is recorded without narrative. The structure treats the failure as an event, not as a decision. Investigations are initiated, but their scope is narrow. They focus on execution rather than origin. Procedures are reviewed. Timings are analyzed. Compliance is measured. Where deviation is found, it is isolated and corrected. The order itself is not examined in these processes. Its validity is assumed by default. It passed through the system legally. It was followed precisely. Therefore, it cannot be the source of error within the framework designed to assess error. Responsibility disperses across layers until it becomes abstract. No individual holds sufficient authority over the entire sequence to be identified as accountable. The system does not require a focal point for blame. It requires continuity. Losses are acknowledged numerically. Totals are entered into records. These figures are treated as outcomes, not warnings. They do not alter existing structures. They are absorbed into historical data. Training materials are updated slightly. Language is refined. Procedures are clarified. None of these changes address the conditions that allowed the order to pass without resistance. They reinforce them. Personnel rotate. Assignments change. The structure persists. In time, references to the event become infrequent. The order is cited only in archived files, indexed and stored alongside countless others. Its presence is indistinguishable from directives that succeeded. New orders continue to move through the same channels. They follow the same paths. They are processed by the same mechanisms, received with the same confidence. The system does not remember failure as a lesson. It remembers it as an occurrence. Silence returns to the spaces where the order once moved. Routine resumes. Efficiency is restored. And somewhere within the structure, another order is already being prepared, complete, authorized, and ready to pass downward, unchallenged, unquestioned, and intact.